Digital horror, like analog horror but for a younger generation. Instead of VHS tapes, we have things from the late 2000s and early 2010s. And today we're covering an iceberg full of ARGs from this horror subgenre. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, join my Discord if you want to hang out, and follow my Instagram just because. And without any further ado, Petscop begins like something you'd stumble across late at night while looking for obscure gaming content. It's presented as a let's play of a long-lost PlayStation game from 1997, supposedly developed by a fictional company called Garalina. The first video, uploaded in March 2017, starts off simple enough. Paul, the player and narrator, explores a colorful, childlike world within the game. At first glance, it seems like a quirky, unfinished puzzle game about catching creatures called pets, but very quickly it becomes clear there's something much deeper and much darker going on. In the opening episodes, Paul shows off the gift plane, which is the main hub of the game. This area is vibrant and cheerful, with bright colors and a whimsical soundtrack. The goal here appears to be solving puzzles and to capture pets, creatures that the game seems to suggest are in need of help. Each pet has a backstory, but even these surface level elements are a little strange. One pet, named Toneth, is described as being afraid of being looked at. Another, Randus, is afraid of being in one place. The descriptions are cryptic, hinting at some more profound emotional themes. Things take a sharp turn when Paul inputs a code he claims was included with the game. This unlocks the New Maker plane, an entirely different section of the game that's unsettling in every way. Gone are the cheerful colors and playful music. Instead, you're faced with a barren, dark field filled with strange, incomplete structures. It feels empty yet claustrophobic, like something is watching you just out of frame. This is where the real mystery begins. The New Maker plane introduces puzzles and locations that feel purposefully obscure, like they're trying to hide something. Paul discovers a series of underground tunnels and locked doors, one of which leads to a child's bedroom rendered in stark, unsettling detail for a PlayStation-era game. The room is filled with items like a crib and a node that cryptically references rebirthing. This term, as later revealed, connects to a controversial real-world therapy method that was used to address childhood trauma but had tragic consequences. The game's use of the term suggests a deeper narrative tied to loss, control, and tragedy. Through his commentary, Paul starts to drop hints that he has a personal connection to the game. He claims to have received it from someone, but he's vague about who or why. As he explores, it becomes clear that the game isn't just a game. It's somehow tied to real-life events involving his family. For instance, the character Care appears repeatedly in the game, both as a pet and a larger narrative presence. Care's name seems to tie back to Carrie Mark, a real person referenced by Paul whose life and death are central to this unfolding story. This game feels incomplete, but it feels purposeful, like the gaps are there to force you to dig deeper. The New Maker plane introduces Marvin, an ominous figure both within the game and in Paul's narrative. Marvin is implied to be a father figure obsessed with rebirth, believing that his daughter, Care, is the reincarnation of someone he lost. This obsession hints at dark and disturbing actions that Marvin may have taken, both in the game and in real life. The tone of the series is one of slow revelation. Every new location, every cryptic message, they all feel like a breadcrumb leading to something bigger. Paul isn't just playing a game, he's piecing together a mystery that feels intimately connected to him. And as the audience, you're left trying to figure out how the pieces fit together. Why does the game feel like it's addressing Paul directly? Who is Care, and why does her story feel so tragic? And, most importantly, what is Paul not telling us? The game's narrative centers around Marvin and his daughter Care. Marvin is portrayed as a deeply troubled character both in the game and seemingly in real life. And again, in the game, he's associated with this concept of rebirthing. And I said earlier that it ends in tragedy a lot, and what I meant by that is that there's a lot of cases where this rebirthing therapy ends with children being suffocated. And in Petscop, this theme is explored metaphorically, with Marvin believing that Care is the reincarnation of Lena, a childhood friend that he lost. His obsession with rebirth suggests a desperation to reclaim what he lost, leading to dark and disturbing consequences. The character of Care, referred to in the game as Care NLM, which stands for No Longer Mine, becomes a haunting presence. She is both a victim and a symbol representing themes of innocence lost and the lasting impact of trauma. In one sequence, Paul discovers a series of rooms tied to Care's story. These spaces are stark and unnerving, often featuring strange symbolic symbols like mirrors or distorted furniture. The game seems to portray her experiences and emotions, including feelings of isolation, fear, and the need to escape. One particularly harrowing moment involves a room with a single cryptic message that says, "You will not remain here." It's unclear whether this is a promise of freedom or a threat. Paul's commentary takes on a more personal tone as he explores these spaces. He starts to connect the dots, referencing real-life events and people in his family. The game's puzzles and hidden areas seem to reflect these events, as if the game itself is a distorted retelling of what happened. For example, there is a recurring focus on Care's crib, which Paul suggests has significant real-world meaning. The crib appears in multiple locations, including a section of the game where Paul is instructed to place it under a spotlight, as if reenacting some kind of pivotal moment. One of the most disturbing elements of Petscop is how it blends this fictional with the real. Paul's discoveries in the game seem to mirror his own memories, but it's never fully clear what's true and what's fabricated. For instance, Marvin's actions within the game suggest neglect and possible abuse. Paul doesn't confirm or deny their connection to real-world events. Instead, his commentary becomes increasingly fragmented, as if he's processing his own emotions while uncovering the game's secrets. This ambiguity leaves viewers grappling with these blurred lines. Another critical element is the presence of the Tool, a floating, ominous face that guides Paul through certain parts of the game. The tool often provides cryptic hints or commentary, but its purpose remains unclear. At times, it seems to mock Paul or lead him into danger, reinforcing the idea that Petscop isn't just a game, it's a psychological labyrinth, designed to force Paul to confront something he'd rather avoid. The series culminates in moments that feel almost too personal to watch. Paul discovers references to his own family, including moments that imply a connection between Care's story and someone in his life. These moments are deeply unsettling, not because they're overtly horrific, but because they feel raw and unresolved. The game doesn't provide closure, instead it leaves viewers with a sense of lingering dread and unanswered questions. By the end, Petscop becomes less about the game itself and more about the process of uncovering hidden truths. The new maker plane, Marvin, Care, and Paul's cryptic commentary all contribute to a narrative that feels deliberately incomplete. It's not about solving the mystery, it's about living in it, feeling the weight of the themes and stories that it explores. Catastrophe Crow, or Crow 64, is another masterpiece of digital horror and ARG storytelling. This one starts off as a YouTube video titled "What Happened to Crow 64," which is presented like one of those gaming documentaries about an obscure, forgotten title. It tells the story of a supposedly unreleased Nintendo 64 game created by a German developer named Manfred Lorenz, who worked under his studio Opus Interactive. What starts as a simple what went wrong story quickly spirals into a haunting mystery. So, the backstory. Manfred Lorenz was this perfectionist game designer who wanted to create something groundbreaking, like the next Super Mario 64. He poured millions into Catastrophe Crow, promising a revolutionary 3D platformer. The game was meant to feature a bird-like character, Mr. Crow, exploring a whimsical world. But things didn't go as planned. Manfred's obsession with the game grew unhealthy. He blew through his entire fortune, laid off his team, and eventually locked himself away to work on the game alone. The worst part was that Manfred and his family mysteriously disappeared before the game could even see the light of day. Like, what? Now here's where it gets creepy. The supposed gameplay footage in the What Happened to Crow 64 video shows Mr. Crow running through these bright, colorful levels that feel just a little off, like the kind of uncanny off that makes your skin crawl. Then the game takes a turn into darker, surreal territory. Empty environments, cryptic symbols, and hidden messages start popping up. There's even a made-up crow language that fans had to decode to get to the bottom of things. The game also drops subtle hints about Manfred's family, particularly his daughter, Thea, who might have inspired parts of the game. The deeper you go, the more it feels like this isn't just a game, it's Manfred trying to deal with something terrible. And here's the genius of Catastrophe Crow. It's not just one video. The ARG sprawls across multiple YouTube channels, hidden codes, and even fake documents. The community around it is just as wild as the game itself, with fans piecing together the story through clues scattered everywhere. It's like an interactive puzzle box, and every new discovery makes the whole thing even more unsettling. The attention to detail is insane, like they made this entire fake game look and feel like an actual N64 title from the late 90s. It's so real that you almost start to believe the story could have actually happened. Five Nights at Freddy's Analog Horror is like a subgenre that takes the already creepy FNAF universe and cranks up the unsettling factor to 11. If you're familiar with the games, you know that they're built around haunted animatronics and a bunch of lore that you probably need a PhD to fully untangle. But Analog Horror creators have taken those core ideas and made them even darker, often focusing on the raw, psychological terror of being trapped in that horrifying world. The Five Nights at Freddy's universe is already packed with unsettling lore, but Squimpus McGrimpus's VHS series elevates it into something that feels almost too real. First released in 2019, the series reimagines the FNAF narrative through the lens of analog horror, using grainy VHS tapes to deliver a story that feels both familiar and entirely new. These tapes, presented as training videos, maintenance checks, and public service announcements, tap into the eerie nostalgia of outdated media while exploring the darker corners of Fazbear Entertainment. The series opens with the Fazbear Entertainment video manual, a seemingly innocent corporate training video. At first, it feels like the kind of instructional tape that you'd expect from a family-friendly company, but cracks quickly begin to show. The cheerful narrator falters, glitches interrupt the footage, and brief flashes of disturbing imagery begin to seep through. It's subtle at first, like a creeping sense of wrongness. By the end of the video, it's clear this isn't just a manual, it's a warning wrapped in corporate PR. Then we get to Bonnie joint movement testing. This video presents itself as a routine animatronic maintenance log. A technician adjusts Bonnie's parts, testing his range of motion, but as the video progresses, Bonnie's movements become erratic, almost violent. The audio distorts, and at one point, a faint voice can be heard beneath the static. It's as if something, or someone, is trying to break through. This tape perfectly captures the essence of the FNAF universe. The animatronics aren't machines, they're haunted, and their bodies betray the human emotions that are trapped inside. Facial recognition testing takes the series a step further into the sinister. It showcases the animatronics' advanced facial recognition capabilities, designed to identify and interact with guests. But the system malfunctions, labeling certain individuals as criminal. What starts as a technical glitch spirals into horror as the animatronics begin to react violently to these false identifications. The Pirate Cove pre-show shifts focus to Foxy, one of the franchise's most iconic characters. On the surface, it's a promotional tape meant to entertain guests, featuring Foxy in his element as a swashbuckling pirate. But underlying glitches and subtle audio distortions reveal a deeper layer. Foxy's line suggests he's aware of the horrors that have taken place at Fazbear Entertainment, kind of making it feel like a confessional. By the time that we get to the non-existent video, the series has fully embraced its analog horror roots. This cryptic tape defies explanation, with distorted visuals and audio creating an atmosphere of unease. It's the kind of video that leaves you questioning its purpose. Is it a corrupted file, a hidden message, or something else entirely? This ambiguity is what makes it so effective. It doesn't hand you the answers, it makes you sit in the discomfort. One of the most powerful tapes is Night Security Training Video. At first glance, it's a standard tutorial for new security guards at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The narrator walks the viewer through the mechanics of monitoring cameras, locking doors, and keeping an eye on the animatronics at night. But there's an underlying tension as the tape begins to break down. The narrator starts to slip, as if they know more than they're letting on. "You'll be fine," they repeat, almost too insistently. The footage glitches, and brief, horrifying images of the animatronics in shadowy poses flash on the screen. Company PSA takes a different approach, framing itself as a public service announcement addressing rumors about the restaurant's safety. The cheerful tone feels hollow, especially as the tape subtly acknowledges the disappearances tied to the establishment. The narrator emphasizes the importance of staying calm and trusting Fazbear Entertainment, but the visuals tell a different story. Between upbeat segments, there are flashes of the animatronics with empty, glowing eyes, and faint whispers in the background hint at the company's complicity in covering up the truth. The animated cartoon tape is one of the most disturbing entries in the series, not because of overt horror, but because of how it distorts something that's meant to be innocent. Styled like an old children's cartoon, it features Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica in a surreal, nightmarish scenario. The cheerful animation style clashes with the unsettling dialogue, where the characters talk about loss and death in ways that feel almost too real. By the end, the cartoon devolves into abstract, glitchy visuals, as if the tape itself is breaking apart under the weight of what it's supposed to convey. Then there's Memories, a tape that pulls you directly into the animatronic's perspective. This entry focuses on Freddy, showing fragmented visuals and distorted audio that seem to represent his memories. Through the glitches, you get glimpses of the missing children, moments of laughter and innocence abruptly cut off by darkness. It's a deeply emotional tape that reinforces the idea that these animatronics aren't just machines, they're prisons for the souls of children who never got a chance to grow up. The haunting realization that Freddy and the others remember what happened to them but can't escape it adds a layer of tragedy to their existence. The series reaches its climax with the finale, a tape that ties everything together while leaving just enough unanswered to keep the mystery alive. This entry reveals the ultimate fate of the missing children and the animatronics' role in their story. The visuals are fragmented and chaotic, with overlapping audio and disjointed images that feel like the game's lore unraveling in real time. There's a sense of catharsis, but also deep sadness as the truth comes to light. The animatronics are victims as much as the children they represent, caught in a cycle of horror perpetrated by William Afton. Now, what makes Quimpus McGrimpus's FNAF VHS series so powerful is its ability to humanize the horror. The tapes aren't just about creepy robots, they're about the people behind them, the lives that were lost, and the lingering pain of unresolved trauma. By using the analog horror format, Quimpus McGrimpus creates a world that feels disturbingly real, as if these tapes could have been found in a dusty storage closet at Fazbear Entertainment, forgotten but not gone. The Hell Valley Sky Trees are one of those eerie gaming mysteries that feel wildly out of place in an otherwise cheerful game like Super Mario Galaxy 2. In the Shiverburn Galaxy, if you switch to first-person view and look up at the cliffs, you'll spot 3 shadowy figures with hollow eyes just standing there watching. They don't move, they don't interact, they're just there. It's the kind of thing that makes you do a double take and wonder if you really saw what you think you saw. Digging into the game's files reveals that these figures are part of the skybox, the static background that gives the illusion of a vast environment. The skybox for this area is labeled Beyond Hell Valley Sky, and the texture for the figures themselves is named Hell Valley Sky Tree. Now, that's a pretty ominous name for a Mario game, right? Especially considering that Hell Valley could be referencing a real place in Japan known as Jigokudani, famous for its hot springs and snow monkeys. The term Sky Tree might be a nod to Kodama, which are tree spirits in Japanese folklore. What's even creepier is that these figures aren't just in Shiverburn Galaxy. They also make an appearance in the Grandmaster Galaxy, specifically in the Pool Star area, which uses the same skybox. So it's like these unsettling watchers are following you across the game, always on the periphery, never explained. Nintendo has never officially commented on their presence, leaving fans to speculate wildly. Some think they're a reference to the Shroobs from Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, time, while others think they might be a subtle nod to Japanese folklore. The lack of explanation has only fueled the mystery, leading to all sorts of fan theories and even creepypastas. It's fascinating how a simple, unexplained texture in a game's background can spark such intrigue and discussion. One of the most talked about creepypastas here is called Going Beyond Hell Valley. It's about this player who becomes obsessed with figuring out the Sky Tree's secrets. They start digging into the game's files trying to learn more, but something feels off. When they load the Shiverburn Galaxy, the figures are gone. Not just moved, but completely erased. Confused, the player begins exploring, and that's when the real horror begins. As Mario runs through the level, dozens of tree-like figures suddenly appear surrounding him. They're closer now, way too close. The game glitches out, Mario collapses, and the screen goes black. From there, the creepiness follows the player into real life. They start having vivid nightmares about the trees, waking up to find shadows that shouldn't be there in their room. The story ends with the player mysteriously disappearing, leaving behind only their game files and a cryptic message, "Don't look up." Another story, Above the Hell Valley Sky Trees, leans into the idea that these figures are watching for a reason. A player notices something new in the sky above the figures' floating eyes. Big, hollow, otherworldly eyes, just staring. They mess around with camera angles, trying to get a better look, and suddenly their game freezes. When it unfreezes, Mario is gone, replaced by a single figure standing in the middle of the screen, its eyes glowing faintly. From that point on, anytime the player boots up their console, the same image appears. That lone figure standing perfectly still, watching. The Old Minecraft Re-Uploads channel is one of those strange corners of YouTube that feels like a mix of nostalgia and something unsettling that you can't quite put your finger on. The channel popped up in March 2021, claiming to upload lost footage from Minecraft's early alpha and beta days. It's all framed as casual, innocent gameplay from 2010 and 2011, but there's a weird undertone that makes these videos feel anything but normal. The first upload, titled Minecraft Base Tour, is the one that set the tone for the channel. The video description says it's dated September 20th, 2010, and it feels like the kind of content you'd expect from an early Minecraft player. The footage starts off simple enough, showing the player walking through a wide, grassy field before entering their base. It's basic, just a small, early game structure, but that's the charm of Minecraft back then, right? The player mentions in the description how, at the time, beds don't exist in the game, so they used wool as a stand-in. This really does pull you back into that early 2010s vibe, back when Minecraft was all about exploration and improvisation. But then things start to feel off. Toward the end of the video, the player leaves their base and heads towards a tunnel that leads to their cave system. It's dark and unlit, just like caves were back in the pre-torch spam days. The camera lingers on the entrance for a while as if the player is hesitating, and then the screen abruptly cuts to black. When the visuals return, something's changed. The player's inventory is completely empty and their health is down to half a heart. There's no explanation for why or how this happened. It's like the video skips ahead to some unseen event, but whatever it was, it clearly wasn't good. The player continues into the cave, and just as they're about to descend further, there's a quick flash on the screen. It's so fast that if you blink you might miss it, but it looks like a pair of legs. Someone or something standing just out of sight. The screen cuts to black again and the video ends. No outro, no explanation, just an eerie silence that leaves you questioning what you just watched. Another one of the standout videos is the TNT Poner, dated September 22nd, 2010. At first, it seems like a lighthearted montage of the player, identified as Mario, blowing up mobs with TNT. It's chaotic fun, exactly what you'd expect from early Minecraft days. But then things start to shift. Cryptic text flashes across the screen during the explosions, and while it's subtle, it's enough to make you do a double take. The text doesn't spell anything out, leaving viewers to speculate if it's a glitch, a hidden message, or something more sinister. And this is a great example of how this channel mixes the ordinary with the eerie. Then there's Really Cool Caves in Minecraft, uploaded on September 26, 2010. Mario explores a cave system showcasing impressive formations, classic Minecraft exploration content. But about halfway through, something strange happens. In the background, you can just make out a silhouette of a figure standing in the shadows. It's there for only a minute, and if you're not paying attention, you might miss it. But what really drives the unease home is the audio. A faint, rhythmic breathing sound starts to play, growing louder as Mario delves deeper into the cave. Fans later pointed out that the sound matches an unreleased audio file buried in Minecraft's early code, which added an unsettling layer to what could have been or should have been a normal gameplay video. Another video, Minecraft Castle Construction, shifts the perspective to Mario's friend named Anthony. Anthony showing off a castle he's been building when he notices a cave nearby. His curiosity gets the better of him and he decides to explore. What starts as a simple side adventure turns into something much darker. In the cave, Anthony encounters what seems to be the same shadowy figure from Mario's cave video. At one point, Anthony is pushed into a deep hole by an unseen force. While he manages to climb out and seal the cave, his closing words about never returning leave viewers with a sense of dread. The connection between Mario and Anthony becomes even clearer in the video titled For Anthony, uploaded on November 5th. After Anthony's terrifying experience, Mario revisits the cave at his friend's request. This video is a direct sequel, with Mario carefully navigating the dark, maze-like tunnels. There are moments where mobs spawn in unsettling numbers and deep holes seem to appear out of nowhere. The tension builds as Mario places a torch in the darkest part of the cave, only for it to be extinguished by an unseen force. The screen cuts to black, leaving viewers on edge and desperate for answers. The Roblox Footage Archives, or RFA, is one of those ARGs that thrives on taking something familiar, Roblox in this case, and turning it into something deeply unsettling. If you've ever played Roblox, you know it's all about creativity, community, and blocky chaos. But the RFA flips that script, presenting a series of cryptic, eerie videos that reframe the platform as a breeding ground for mystery, danger, and even conspiracy. One of the standout videos is Hidden Error Message. It feels like a dive into Roblox's technical history, showing an old error screen from the early days of the platform. But this isn't just any error. The screen glitches and flickers unnaturally, and there's a subtle sense of dread, as though the message isn't just a bug, but a warning. The video invites viewers to question what lies beneath the game's surface, hidden flaws, or something more sinister. And then there's 1x1x1x1 sighting. If you're even vaguely familiar with Roblox lore, you've probably heard of 1x1x1x1, a supposed hacker or exploit that's haunted the platform's myths for years. The video shows footage of a player encountering this figure, blending Roblox urban legend with this ARG's narrative. It plays into the fear of being watched or manipulated by forces beyond your control, especially within a space as open as Roblox. Red Static is where things take a sharper turn into outright horror. It's a brief, chaotic video filled with glitchy red static that feels almost alive. There's no clear narrative, just an overwhelming sense of something being corrupted. It's as if the game itself is breaking down, or worse, being overwritten by an external force. The video Grayscale Player Clones is particularly chilling. It shows rows of identical grayed out player avatars standing motionless. It's like staring into an army of lifeless NPCs, but these aren't ordinary glitches. The implication is that something or someone has duplicated these players for a darker purpose. Combined with the silence of the footage, it leaves you questioning what these clones represent. One of the more subtly unnerving videos is sword fights on the Heights 4 info hazards. At first, it looks like standard gameplay from the iconic Roblox game Sword Fights on the Heights, but as video progresses, things start to warp. The map looks off, distorted geometry and textures, and cryptic symbols flash on the screen, referred to as info hazards. These symbols feel like they're meant to unsettle or even infect the viewer, playing with the idea that some knowledge is harmful by just existing. The video Blocks Watch Eyes Evidence builds on Roblox's famous myths. this time tackling the Blocks Watch, a shadowy surveillance group supposedly monitoring players. The footage claims to reveal their eyes, glowing orbs hidden throughout the game. It's presented like hard evidence in a conspiracy theory, making it feel like Roblox has been hiding secrets in plain sight. Then there's Crossroads' Secret Room, which hits a nostalgic note for longtime Roblox players while unsettling them at the same time. Crossroads is one of Roblox's most iconic maps, a staple of the platform, but in this video, the player finds a hidden room that shouldn't exist, complete with strange markings and unsettling sound effects. It's the kind of thing that makes you want to boot up the map and search for it yourself, if you dare. The Dynablox beta build leaked video is kinda like a forbidden artifact. It purports to show footage from Roblox's earliest days, back when it was still called Dynablox. The grainy, low-quality video feels authentic, but there's something off about it. Small glitches, distorted audio, and an overall sense of wrongness makes it feel like you're watching something you really weren't meant to. Seizure-inducing flashes takes the ARG into more aggressive territory. The entire video is rapid, strobe-like flashes of lights designed to be disorienting and overwhelming. It's less about a narrative and more about just delivering a visceral, uncomfortable experience. And finally, Roblox Psychological Operations is the most conspiracy-heavy of the videos. It implies that Roblox itself is part of a larger scheme, using its platform to manipulate or control players psychologically. It's vague and unsettling, leaving viewers to wonder what exactly the operations entail and whether they're just part of the ARG or touching on something deeper. The RFA works because it blends real Roblox history with eerie fictional elements. It taps into actual myths like 1x1x1x1 and Blocks Watch, and it combines them with the inherent eeriness of early Roblox gameplay, lonely servers, odd glitches, and the occasional unsettling map. By presenting itself as a series of archived videos, the ARG creates a sense of authenticity, making viewers feel like they're uncovering secrets that were never meant to be found. And the ambiguity is great too, like the videos don't spell everything out, they leave gaps for the audience to fill in with their own fears and theories. It's pretty great. The OldRoot ARG is one of those digital enigmas that sticks with you long after you stop trying to solve it. Emerging in 2014, it weaves together cryptic messages, literary references, and eerie imagery, all tied to Minecraft's vast and mysterious universe. It's not just a game or a story, it's an experience that challenges players to dig deeper, both figuratively and literally. The mystery begins innocently enough on Reddit when a user named Lewis Green receives a private message from someone with the username OldRoot. The message is brief but unsettling. Quote, "This is the beginning. Those who are pure will see what hides in the darkness." Unquote. It's the kind of cryptic message you might brush off until you notice the image attached. At first glance, the picture looks ordinary, but when it's brightened, a faceless figure emerges, standing ominously in the shadows. The rabbit hole opens further with a link to a SoundCloud track titled "It Has Begun." SoundCloud isn't the kind of place you'd expect to find answers, but with OldRoot, nothing is straightforward. Fans analyzed the audio track using a spectrogram, a tool that visualizes sound waves, and uncovered hidden messages embedded in the music. Among the discoveries were a link to an Imgur image and the phrase "Silent Raven," a clue that would echo throughout the entire ARG. The Silent Raven reference led many participants to Edgar Allan Poe's iconic poem, The Raven, hinting at themes of grief, loss, and inevitability. It was the first of many connections between OldRoot and the dark, haunting atmosphere of Poe's work. From there, the clue started to snowball. Encoded messages appeared in images written in Morse code that spelled out OldRoot, as well as ciphers that, when decrypted, revealed phrases like "We are waiting." The meticulous detail was captivating, drawing participants deeper into this narrative. One of the ARG's most fascinating elements was its connection to Minecraft servers. OldRoot submitted whitelist applications to specific servers, but these weren't your standard applications. Instead, they were poems filled with cryptic symbolism, begging to be dissected. One of them here reads this: "Hidden deep in the roots of an old tree, a mystery awaits with patterns of 3. He watches from behind, quiet and mute, the one with no face, whom they call OldRoot. Let these words foreshadow of what might be if you make the decision to whitelist me." And then a bunch of characters that I'm not going to read. At first, the final line seems like gibberish, but using a Caesar cipher, a classic encryption method, participants decoded it to reveal the haunting phrase, "trapped in a prison of wood." It's a chilling statement, conjuring up images of confinement and helplessness, themes that seem to permeate the entire ARG. Throughout the journey, Poe's the Raven becomes a recurring motif. The parallels between the poem's haunting themes and OldRoot's cryptic world are impossible to ignore. Just like the narrator of Poe's poem who is consumed by loss and haunted by memories, OldRoot seems to be grappling with something unresolved, something lurking just out of reach. The ARG uses this literary connection to deepen its emotional impact, which adds a layer of complexity that elevates it beyond just a simple mystery. As the ARG unfolded, the community discovered a lot more clues hidden within the whitelist applications. Like, one clue was hidden in this line that just said, "We are waiting," in all caps. And then another key element of OldRoot's mystery was the use of images. Many of the visuals initially appeared mundane, but when analyzed, like brightened, flipped, or run through spectrograms, they revealed hidden layers of meaning. Like one particularly unsettling image here, when enhanced, revealed a dark forest with the faint silhouette of the faceless OldRoot figure standing among the trees. One of the most chilling aspects of OldRoot was its suggestion of entrapment. The phrase "trapped in a prison of wood," which we talked about earlier, became a central motif. Many interpreted it as a metaphor for being trapped within Minecraft's blocky world, but others saw it as something deeper, a representation of the human condition, being confined by choices, memories, or unresolved fears. And then, despite years of investigation, the OldRoot ARG remains unsolved. It's unclear whether it was ever meant to have a definitive ending, or if its purpose was just to evoke the very feelings that it explores: curiosity, unease, and the drive to seek answers in the face of uncertainty. What makes OldRoot so powerful is its ability to linger in your mind long after you stop trying to solve it. The faceless figures, the cryptic messages, the haunting echoes of the Raven, all of it combines to create a story that feels like it's waiting for you, even now. Don't Look at the Moon is one of those stories that seems harmless at first, but quickly transforms into something unforgettable. The mystery started innocuously enough, a simple phrase tucked away in a Minecraft Iceberg chart. Now this is funny because I'm currently doing an Iceberg chart video. Nestled in one of the lower tiers of this iceberg was the phrase "don't look at the moon." For many, it was their first time hearing it, of course. But for others, it was a cryptic warning that they'd heard whispered in Minecraft lore. The phrase gained attention when Reddit user u/proboat748, the creator of the Iceberg chart, released a document explaining the entries. According to their research, "Don't Look at the Moon" was based on a rumor that Minecraft's code included a hidden mechanic triggered by players looking at the moon for too long. Supposedly, this would lead to increasingly bizarre phenomena: shadowy figures stalking you, your character spontaneously combusting, or even the complete corruption of your world. It sounded absurd, but it was just believable enough to make players curious and wary. The legend took on a new life when YouTuber Legend Finder decided to test the myth. In a series of videos, he set out to stare at the moon in Minecraft for extended periods, meticulously documenting his findings. At first, of course, nothing happened. The moon remained static, the game's mechanics unchanged. But then came the anomalies. In one instance, after staring at the moon for several nights in-game, Legend Finder's game suddenly crashed. The timing was suspicious, and while it could have been a coincidence, it was enough to plant a seed of doubt. Viewers began to speculate. Was this just a rare glitch or something more? The mystery deepened when Legend Finder's experiments revealed other strange occurrences. Unexplained glitches, crashes, and subtle changes to the game would pile up. In one particularly eerie moment, Legend Finder noticed a faint distortion in the sky near the moon. It was barely noticeable, but to viewers it looked like something was there, something watching. These moments, though subtle, were enough to ignite the imaginations of the Minecraft community. Was this the work of a hidden entity, maybe? The agent was first introduced in Legend Finder's later videos, where viewers began noticing subtle anomalies during his moon-gazing experiments. During one of his recordings, Legend Finder caught a shadowy figure in the distance, standing perfectly still. The figure was humanoid but indistinct, with no defining features. As Legend Finder turned to investigate, the figure disappeared. From this point forward, the agent became a recurring presence in Legend Finder's experiments. It would appear sporadically, always just out of reach, and always accompanied by subtle changes in the game world. Blocks would be rearranged, patterns would emerge in the terrain, and cryptic messages would flash on the screen. One of the most chilling messages read, "It watches because you looked." The implication was clear. The agent's actions were tied to the moon, and staring at it was the trigger. This ARG also introduced a series of cryptic clues tied to the agent. Players analyzing Legend Finder's footage discovered hidden messages embedded in the audio and visuals of his videos. Spectrogram analyses of certain audio clips revealed phrases like, "We are under its light," and "It waits beyond the horizon." These fragments hinted at a larger narrative, one that extended beyond Minecraft's world and into something far more cosmic. Now, the mystery of Don't Look at the Moon never offered a clear resolution, and that's part of what made it so powerful. The agent's purpose, the exact mechanics of the moon's influence, and the deeper meaning behind the cryptic messages were left deliberately ambiguous. It wasn't about solving the puzzle, it was about experiencing the fear and wonder of staring into the unknown. The ARG's brilliance lay in its ability to turn a familiar and seemingly harmless aspect of Minecraft into a source of existential dread.